Let's revise complete population geography. We are starting with the population distribution. The spatial variations are because of two reasons. All parts of the world are not equally populated and they do not have the same growth. Why? There are two reasons: natural factors and human factors. Natural factors are your land, air, water, forest. You can give any example you want. And human factors are technology, migration, developed centers, conflicts, political decisions, and new cultural elements. These are the examples for those. There are two important takeaways. Environmental determinism cannot explain this population distribution, and these factors do not operate in isolation. Example, in Dubai, it is a desert, it has technology, it has development, and it has conflict from the neighboring areas. So let's see the pattern of distribution. There are primary pockets, which is Northeast USA, Western Europe, South Asia, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. There are secondary and tertiary pockets, which are more localized population pockets. We have rivers like Nile and Volga, coasts like California, Melbourne, Sydney, important centers like Cairo, Mexico City, and Sao Paulo. Very sparsely populated things are desert, Arctic, Antarctic, forest, mountains, etc. Ecumenical and non-ecumenical concept is given by Aristotle. This is no longer acceptable. We can cite the example of space and Antarctic. Now coming to continent-wise population distribution, Asia has 60% population. It has large area and more resources. It is one of the civilizational hearth, and the society is rural, agricultural and traditional. Therefore, there is low development and hence high growth of population. Africa has 15%. Much of it is not livable, like Sahara, Congo, Namibia, Kalahari. Savannah has dry and it is dry and house droughts. It has colonial exploitation and tribal conflicts, therefore very high death rate. But this is compensated due to high birth rate. Soon there will be demographic trap in Africa, because death rate will keep falling, but birth rate will keep increasing. It won't fall. Combine that with poor governance, there will be many problems in Africa. Western Europe, it has 10% population. It has favorable climate. During the IR period, it had population explosion. Now the Europe is having negative growth rate. Only due to migration, Europe is able to maintain its population. The population will further decline to 67%. It has problems like racism and xenophobia. North America has something like 10 to 15% population. It has very huge resources, large continent, but most of it is extremely cold and isolated. Due to the pragmatic migration policy, it is able to maintain its population numbers. You can contrast it with Western Europe. It has young talented population due to migration. Southern Middle America, it has 8% population. It has mountains, dense forests and deserts like Atacama Desert, Kalahari Desert, and Mexico Desert. It has old civilizations but low resources. Therefore, we cannot expect rapid population growth from this area in future. The population pockets of Asia, South Asia, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. This is Europe. For the Africa, we have Mediterranean coast, Nile and Cairo, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Somalia. These are highlands. We have Gulf of Guinea and South Africa. In North America, we have northeastern USA, Atlantic seaboard, Gulf coast of South, Bay Area, and Vancouver. For the South America, we have Mexico City, Venezuela coast, Brazil coast, and Sao Paulo. These are the first 7 civilizations, which are Olmec, Chico, Mesopotamia, there is Sumerian here, Egyptian civilization, Indus Valley civilization, and Hango civilization. To measure the population concentration, we have arithmetic density and physiological density. This is total population by total area. This is total population by agricultural area. This gives how much population can the agricultural food production support. For India, this is 380 and this is 1000. Next, we are moving to population growth. We need to know about the J curve. The population was very low, now it is very high. So the three disruptive events are agricultural revolution, age of voyages, and industrial revolution, which happened at 10,000 BC, 1300 AE, and 1700 AD. The population increases because of better health infra. In future, the population may stabilize, and this J curve may turn into S curve. So the doubling period, this is the table, and since 1930, there has been exponential growth. So the measurement of population growth, we have crude birth rate and crude death rate. The difference between it is net natural increase. We have general fertility rate, which is live birth per 1,000 women in reproductive age span. We have ASFR. These are the 7 age groups for that. We have TFR. These three are from census enumeration. This is an estimate. So this is number of children a woman will have if fertility rates continue and she survives reproductive lifespan. So this is a formula for that. Replacement rate, it is a TFR for which the population will replace itself. So if there is high birth rate and high population, it will require very high TFR. So for most of the countries, 2.1 is the TFR. The global TFR pattern will follow the brand line. There is something called income TFR paradox. Income is inversely proportional to TFR. Some areas with a high TFR are Africa and Middle East, lower Western Europe, Japan, and Singapore. According to NHFS 5, India has a TFR of 2.2. Bihar and UP has high, South and Deccan have 1.8 only. So it's lower than 2.1 replacement TFR. Factors controlling TFR are biological, cultural, and political economical. You can look at them here. We need to differentiate between fecundity and fertility. Fecundity is natural capacity to bear children. Fertility is actual number of children born by the woman. So in reality, fecundity won't act. Fertility, due to cultural, economic, political factors, it will decide the population size. So now coming to population theories, we have Malthus, Marx, and demographic transition theory given by Robert Malthus, Karl Marx, and Nordiston Thompson. Years are given here, and the books are essays on principles of population and theory of communism. Malthus theory is a biological theory and it's an ecological theory. Initially, there were pronatalist societies which favored large population, large families because for survival instinct, for labor, and for soldiers. So Malthus, he was living during IR times, so he was an economist and demographer. So during the IR period, there was rapid population growth, crowded cities, pollution, poverty, and hunger, and because of all this, he started questioning the pro-natalist thinking. So according to him, food grows arithmetically and population grows geometrically. So ability of society and population to multiply is infinitely larger than ability to grow food. So, but he could not predict the green revolution. So according to him, population will be limited by the agriculture and food productivity. So according to him, man is a biological being, so he has two drives, drive for food and drive for sex, and both these drives are antagonistic. So if there is enough food, the population will grow, but there is limited ability to grow food. So the hunger, food shortage, conflict, all this will happen, and this will again maintain the population and food balance. These are the positive checks. So the positive checks, according to him, are inevitable. In this way, he is alerting the society about population growth. Also, Malthus and poverty. According to him, poverty is a consequence of population growth. Poor are themselves to be blamed. He was against poor laws. He instead talked about capitalistic production. To control the fertility, there are other possibilities like contraceptives, extramarital affairs, homosexuality, abstinence. These are the negative checks. According to him, these three are immoral and this is very difficult. So positive checks are inevitable. Um, uh, because of all this, he is called as a pessimist. So analysis of the theory, this was an early population theory based on the man-land relationship, and it gave an opposition to the pro-natalist thinking. He was a pessimist because he gave animal view of the man. He did not account for tech, and he rejected the contraceptives. According to him, children are not a social need. Children are not a social need but a biological need. This is also wrong. He was anti to poor laws. He talked about capitalist protection as a solution to the poverty. In the modern interpretations of these are called neo-Malthusian theories, which talk about the limits to growth and sustainable development. These are very much valid today. So let's summarize this theory. The context is IR and urbanization. The core idea is population versus food availability. The main concepts are positive and negative checks, biological man, inevitability of population collapse. The implications are population collapse will happen unless we control the population. The evidence is no country today is in Malthusian trap. It is only in primitive and tribal societies or rural, remote rural areas. Analysis, it is an interesting idea but very pessimistic. One of the early theories, alerting with respect to limits of the environment. Now coming to the criticism, desire for children is mixed with passion for sex. APGP is mathematically wrong, but it is a figure of speech rather than actual calculations. Overemphasis on positive checks, so he's a pessimist. Natural calamities, they will attack both high population and low population regions alike. And fecundity versus fertility, he did not maintain a distinction. So this is the population growth, this is the food growth. When the population growth crosses the food growth, it will result in Malthusian catastrophe. Now coming to Marx, he did not give a direct theory. This is an interpretation from his general theory of communism, which is given in Communist Manifesto in Das Kapital. So according to him, the society will transit from tribal to feudal to mercantile capitalism to industrial capitalism. This will increase exploitation. According to Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels' theory of communism, there are twin levels of capitalism, which are private property and class divide. Because of this, few rich and powerful will control all the resources. Tendency of the man is to accumulate what they are good in. So rich will accrue more money and property, poor will accrue more labor, hence more population. So the poverty and exploitation will need more wages. So they will increase the population numbers. This will result in more labor supply. This will reduce the wages and the vicious cycle will continue. So the solution provided by him is dismantle capitalism and go for communism, dismantle private property and go for communal ownership of resources. Now let's compare Malthus and Marx. Reason for the population increase for both is poverty. The poor are animals for him and these are exploited. He blamed poor, he blamed rich. The theory is biological, this theory is political. The solution is positive checks are inevitable. No to poor laws and capitalism is the way forward. He wanted to overthrow the capitalism through labor revolutions. So his view is pessimistic. He is more optimistic than Malthus. So Marx interlinked all these concepts and the population growth. So summary of Marx, the context is again IR, rising poverty in 17th and 18th century, rising exploitation. The core idea is the exploitation results in the population growth. The main ideas are dismantle private property and class divide and go for the communism. And the implication is to dismantle capitalism. Evidences are theory of communism is a grand theory with no evidences. We know what happened in USSR and other communist countries. So the analysis is this counters Malthus. So this is population as a resource, whereas Malthus is population as a burden. This is a solution-based theory, and he does not blame poor. He is more humanistic than Malthus. Malthus is also humanistic. He is more optimistic. So the criticism: capitalism has no proof to provide. Has provided better quality of life, infra, and health. Population increase does not automatically lead to wage reduction. It depends upon the socio-economic political conditions. He overemphasized on private property as main culprit. It is relevant only to the capitalist societies, not to welfare approach countries like India maybe. So population growth versus poverty. There are three interpretations. Malthus and Marx, we have seen both of them are wrong. The modern view is that you have to improve the social indicators so that the population growth will reduce. Example, if the IMR is high, families will insecure and they will increase their fertility. Now coming to demographic transition theory. Initially Thomson in 1929 gave it, then Nordstein in 1949 gave three-stage theory, and in 1960s 4 and 5 stages are given. Thomson, he studied population history of Europe. He gave three categories of society, which are incipient growth, population explosion, and stabilized population. So these are the birth and death rates, hence these growth rates. So Nordstein, he interpreted these three types of societies as three stages in population transition for any society. So incipient growth becomes the primitive tribal community, population explosion becomes agro and IR based urbanization, and population stability becomes socio-economic development post IR. So these are the birth rates will fall later than the death rates. So these are the birth and death rates here. Death rate falls dramatically due to improvement in the social indicators, and later birth rate falls due to social change and attitude change. Now four-stage model is given by the Sachs. These are the four stages, which are high fluctuating stage, early expanding stage, late expansion stage, population expansion stage, and the latest stage added is fifth stage, which is mortality reversal. So these are seen in the primitive tribes. This is seen in Africa. This is seen in India now. The fourth stage is seen in Western Europe, Japan, China, and the last stage is seen in Russia, Iraq, Japan, etc. So in India, it is seen this is seen before 1921. This is seen from 21 to 2001. This is now, and this will be after 2035. So the population pyramid for the first stage is like this. It is very broad because of high birth rate. It is very short because life expectancy is low, and it tapers rapidly because very low proportion of old age population. Next is early expanding stage. The base is still broad because birth rate is still high. It is tall because life expectancy is improved. Tapers not as much as this one because there are a bit of old age people. And the rate expectancy stage, the base is very narrow because death rate is falling. It is tall because life expectancy is improving. It is barrel shaped because it has demographic dividend due to young adults. Now the population stabilization, it is very narrow because birth rate is very low. It is very tall, very high life expectancy. It has inverted shape because birth rate is very low and death rate is also very low. Now a few points. Malthus traps activates in stage 1, and stage 2 and early stage 3 together will lead to a population explosion. Demographic dividend happens in this stage. And late fluctuating stage, society will be highly developed, it will be urbanized, quality of life will be very high, and there will be decline of marriage as an institution and children as social compulsion. Example, living will be more in these type of societies. The fifth stage is mortality reversal, wherein death rate will increase again. We can see the examples: Japan due to aging population, Russia due to economic issues, Iraq due to conflict, due to COVID, whole world, and climate change issues due to in the low-lying islands. Now, evaluation of DTT. It is based on QR. It is a modern theory given recently. It is deterministic because it says all countries will go through the 4 stages. It is much more applicable than Malthus and Marx, where Malthus is applicable only in tribal, Marx only in capitalistic societies. We can cite two exceptions for this, which are China and India. They have the restrictive population policy and they have the welfare approach to population control. So they bypass few stages, and there is a reverse. It doesn't talk about reversal in stages, but we can cite the stage 5 reasons as a reversal of the stages. It is only a descriptive temporal model. It does not explain why this happens. It is generalizing too much. It studied the European population history, but it applies the same thing to whole. Now let's go through other population theories. Thomas Doubleday, he talked about better diet and protein intake will result in less growth rate. There is no evidence to prove this. Thomas Sadler, he talked about more population results in more crowding, hence decline in population growth. Again, there is no evidence. Herbert Spencer, he talked about urban life and aspirational life. It will increase complexities, therefore population growth will decrease. Bostrop theories and the malnutrition, he talks about population as a resource. It will result in more labor and more production. This can be correlated to the demographic dividend concept. Now coming to the social theories, we have Arsene Dumont and J.S. Mill. He gave the social capillarity theory. He did not give any theory. It is an interpretation from his book On Liberty. He is a French sociologist. He gave this theory in 1880s. His ideas are social development and basic minimum income, and societies with growth awareness, they will control the population. Aspirational societies, they see children as desensitive to their growth, career growth, for example. So he is an English philosopher. Book on Liberty, he gave it in 1850s. This is not a theory but an interpretation. His ideas are humans are not swines, they don't procreate mindlessly. So he's attacking Malthus here. And his solution for hunger is import food, that is trade, and export population, that is out migration. This is the only theory that talks about the migration. Uh, he also talks about poor loss and social security. They will incentivize poor not to grow. If they grow the numbers, they will again slip back into poverty. He also talks about reproductive rights to the women that will lead to better population stabilization. Now let's compare both. For both of them, the cause is poverty. The solution is socio-economic development. Both are anti-Malthus. Both are alternative to Marx. So Dumont is aspirational society, and Mill is the fear of slipping back. So this is the minimum income and this is the poverty. And the conclusions: population and growth and poverty, they are correlated, but not like Malthus and Marx. Development is the best contraceptive. Urban life disincentivizes the population growth. India following this approach to the population control. Therefore, India can be talked as following social theory. Now, the optimum population concept. This is given by Edwin Cannon in 1924 in his book Wealth. So he criticized Malthus and he was supported by Carl Sanders, Robin, and Dalton. So according to him, the population which will result in maximum development and maximum resource utilization is optimum population. So this is the optimum population where development will be maximum. Below this it will be underpopulation. Above this it will be overpopulation. So Dalton gave a formula for maladjustment, which is A minus O by O. A is the actual population and O is optimum population. If it is negative, this is underpopulation. Positive, it is overpopulation. If it is zero, it is optimum population. Comparing Malthus and optimum population. Resource, he considers only agricultural land. He considers all other resources. The nature of man is biological being for him. For him, man is innovative and he can find solutions. The objective of society is survival for him, and for him it is quality of life, happiness, and development. His view is pessimistic. He is optimistic, and to find the optimum population, according to Carl Sanders, we have to count the population welfare. According to Dalton, welfare is very abstract, so instead he uses per capita income. There are 5 issues with this theory. This is just an idea, no actual method to measure the resources. Even if we consider per capita income, it won't capture the all the resources. Now the resources are also dynamic. For example, data is a new oil. This can't be counted in 1970s, for example, and it does not talk about environmental quality, social well-being. Also, it is not concerned with the inequalities. And when the technology changes, the optimum population will also change. So this is a graph. This is initial technology. This is the optimum population. When better technology comes, the more population will be the optimum. So the tech will changes every day. So we can't change the population every day. So that is a limitation. Now coming to the population resource relation, according to Ackerman, is an extension of the above theory. Now according to him, there are 4 types of societies. 5 if we count Arctic also. The US type, European type, Brazilian type, and Egyptian type. The tech for Europe and US are high. Brazil and Egyptian is low. Population resource ratio is high for Europe type and Egyptian type, low for the other two. The examples are we'll see in the map. So the optimum population is for European type. US are underpopulated. Brazil is also underpopulated. This is overpopulated. So this is the map. We have the US type here, and we have the European type over here, and this is Egyptian type, and this is also the US type, and this is the Brazilian type. Oh, so population growth in India, according to 2011 census, we have 1.2 billion population. So 17% population versus 2.4% land. The population is fast growing, but the growth rates are rapidly declining. So the temporal pattern, we have the annual exponential growth rate and decadal growth rate. According to 2000, they are 1.6% and 17%. We have target for less than 1% and less than 10%. So the population growth can be seen in 4 phases, which are stagnant population, steady growth, rapid growth, and high growth with signs of slowing down. This phase has 2 stages, which are steady decline in growth rates and steady and continuous decline. Before 1921, which is the great demographic divide, it can be called as DTD stage 1. Therefore, Malthusian traps activates here. We have famine epidemic, low health infra. From 1921, we have entered the DTD stage 2, where the death rate has fallen due to medical infrastructure and famine control. In the emergency period, we have a backfiring of course sterilizations. Therefore, decadal growth rate is greater than 25%. From 2001, we have entered the stage 3. So NPP 2000, the target is to stabilize population by 2045, but according to NHFS 5, it will stabilize by 2035 itself. The spatial pattern, we have a north-south divide. They have low TFR and low decadal growth rates. This is associated with the socio-economic conditions like health, education, women reproductive rights, birth control, etc. So according to NPP 2000, there are some reasons for high population growth, which are large population base, large proportion of adult population, and this is compounded by marriage, which is early and compulsory, and children, which are compulsory, and preference for son. So the high IMR will lead in a psychological compensation for TFR, and low couple protection ratio uh, will leads to less number of contraceptives. So 1901 to 1921, Malthus is activated. 1921 to 1981, marks can be applied to India, and from 1981 to 2011, social theories are applied to India. Now coming to national population policy, the need is to control TFR, therefore hence manage the population, and hence manage the socio-economic welfare. We can define it as deliberate effort by the government to influence fertility, mortality, and migration, thereby control the size, composition, and distribution of population. So it is a measure of social institution. The aims are reproductive and child health care, stable population with respect to sustainable development goals, welfare of the population. And India was first to have the NPP. It was in 1976. Later we have NPP 2000. So NPP to 1976, the backdrop was rapid population increase, and it followed the policy of monetary incentive for birth control, women literacy. Finance Commission gave some weightage to population control, and legal age for marriage was increased for boys and girls, and population education in formal schooling system. The 76 NPP failed because coercive measures, high population in reproductive age span, high MR led to high TFR, and 50% women were married before 18, low couple protection ratio. In this backdrop came NPP 2000. It wanted to manage the happiness needs of the family, and it was much broader in mindset than NPP 1976. So the key features are it integrated child health, maternal health, and women empowerment, and it wanted to control TFR by controlling IMR and MMR. So it had following aims: the immediate aims, midterm aims, and long-term aims. Long-term is to stabilize population by 2045. Midterm is to maintain the TFR of 2.1. Immediately, they want to take care of reproductive health care and supply of the birth control. And the focus of NPP 2000 was for children. They want to give free and compulsory education, which is RTA Act, and universal immunization, which is Indradhanush, and 100% registration of birth date, marriage, and pregnancy. Plus, they wanted to popularize the small family norm. For couples, they wanted to provide contraceptives, delayed marriage, and control sexually transmitted diseases and reproductive health care. The two-child policy is not accepted formally at national level. Few states informally started it, like UP and Gujarat, to stabilize their population. The need for such two-child policy is maternal depletion syndrome, which is mortality of the mom will increase with number of births and close pregnancies. Less child will lead to more standard of living, according to Arsene Dumont. But there is no need for such a two-child policy because, according to international experience, such coercive measures will not give good results. Example: China's one-child policy resulted in sex-selective abortion and aging population and workforce. Also, according to NHFS 5, more than 17 states already have replacement TFR. Moreover, some communities are on verge of extinction, like Parsis. So the way forward is to ensure the reproductive rights of women, increase the marriage age, and follow the welfare approach to population control. Now coming to pattern of world fertility, according to UNFPA, the TFR of world is decreasing from 5 in 1960 to 2.5 in 2011. The reason for this decline is developing nations TFR is decreasing because of coercive government policy like China and development measures like India, and this is a special pattern. 2, 2.1, 1.6, 4.5, 2.1, and 2.1. The world average is 2.5. The developed world TFR is near replacement level. This is because good availability of contraceptives, socio-economic development, and social capillarity, as stated by the Acid Dumont. So they are in DTD fourth stage. Asia, it can be divided into two: West Asia and Central Asia have high TFR, and South Asia and Southeast Asia have low TFR. This is because of low contraceptive availability, regressive mindset, low women status, and low literacy. This is mainly because of the government intervention and better medical infra. Africa is very high at 4.5 because of contraceptive issue. Women empowerment is low, high AMR and MMR, low urbanization, and low healthcare infrastructure. And according to Hugh Jones, these are the world fertility determinants. These are social factors, other social factors, and demographic factors. Social factors are marriage age and couple protection ratio. Other social factors are education, women's status, health infrastructure, and social insurance. Demographic factors are how many people are in the reproductive age span. So coming to literacy, we have literacy, functional literacy, and education. Functional literacy is ability to read a standard medicine bottle and comply with it. Literacy is a person greater than 7 years if he can read his or her name. And education is a lifelong process where we acquire wisdom. And indicators to measure literacy are enrollment ratio, dropout ratio, mean years of schooling, and expected years of schooling. So human development index also uses the knowledge component, which uses the expected years of schooling and mean years of schooling. So the temporal pattern of literacy, we can see the in 2011 overall is 75, male 82 and 65. So there is a gap between male and female, but this gap is reducing overall. The spatial pattern, there is a north-south divide, as we can see from this. The northeast has high literacy due to missionaries, and Kerala has high importance given to education and high social capability. Also, there is a rural-urban divide between the literacy patterns. And population is structure. It is a proportion of population in different age groups. India has a very high in 15 to 64. Therefore, India has demographic dividend. The world numbers can be seen here. So in future, the population will increase and 65 plus will become more, and therefore world will age in future. So future policies need to take care of geriatric facilities, and second, demographic dividend must be tapped according to the World Bank. For example, India follows the Anubhav scheme, which wants to tap the knowledge of the aging population. Now coming to mortality, it is number of deaths per year by mid-year population in 2000. So no age specificity, therefore it is called crude. The temporal pattern of the world, it is decreasing from 43 in 1901 to 8 in 2016 according to UN population division data. India has CDR of 7, China 7, world 8. Special pattern, these countries have high, these countries have low. You can remember them. IMR is infant mortality rate. India has 30 per thousand according to sample registration survey. The factors affecting mortality are mother and child health and nutrition, awareness with respect to health, geriatric care, sanitation, pandemics like COVID, and government policies. Now coming to dependency ratio, it is the number of people in 0 to 14 and 65 plus to number of people in 15 to 64. So why do we need it? To analyze the labor force. What is the pressure on the productive population? So remember this Ilanova, which has a dependency ratio of 45, 50, 55, 60 and 80. And DPR versus DTD, what is demographic transition theory? Stage 1 and 2, birth rate is high, therefore DPR will be high. Stage 3, DPR will be favorable because of high demographic dividend, example India. In stage 4, old age people will be more, therefore DPR will be high, example Japan. So there is a case study. Rwanda is in DTD stage 1 and Japan is in DTD stage 4. Though Japan is very highly developed and Rwanda is very low developed, both have very high death rates. Coming to life expectancy, it is how long a person is expected to live at birth. So it is a social economic development indicator in human development index. This is a pattern of the life expectancy. Japan has very high at 84, India has 69, and you can see the others. The world has 80, Japan 84, sub-Sahara has very low 50. Women tend to live longer, therefore life expectancy of women will be higher. Coming to workforce, participate in any economic productive activity, you will be in the workforce. With you may or may not get wages, but still you will be part of the workforce. So it will be total workers by total population. The main workers, both should be added, main workers who work for more than 6 months and marginal workers who work for less than 6 months. India has a workforce of 40%. This is not good. Few states are very high like Himachal Pradesh and few states are very low like Lakshadweep. Is a pattern. Coming to sex ratio, it can be defined as number of females per 1000 males. What is the need? Need is to determine the gender equity in society. Example, developing countries have skewed sex ratio. India, according to census 2011, has 940. Recent NHFS 5, according to it, it has 1020. The world has 984. China 926, lower than India. Pakistan almost approximately equal to India. Bangladesh 978. We can see here Pakistan, China. Nepal has higher than 1000. Sri Lanka has higher than 1000. Bangla 978. Myanmar has higher than 1000. India has 940. World did not see any improvement between 2001 and 11. South Asia and Africa the worst performers. So this is the India's sex ratio. 1971 is a watershed year since when we are seeing the growth in sex ratio, and there's a north-south divide in sex ratio with Kerala performing good and Haryana, Delhi performing very bad. We have also the child sex ratio. It is very low, although sex ratio is improving, but child sex ratio is falling. This is very worrying because child sex ratio will determine the future sex ratio. According to Global Gender Gap Report given by World Economic Forum in 2021, it considers 4 parameters, which are economic participation, educational attainments, health and survival, and political empowerment. This is the most lagging thing. These two are almost all closed. So the key findings are COVID increased the inequalities, and the worst indicator is the political empowerment. These two are almost all closed. India ranks at 140. South Asia is performing very poor. So coming to India statistics, India is 148th rank. It is third worst in South Asia. India closed 62.5% gender gap. The most worst is political empowerment. Now let's see some reasons for sex ratio decline, which are patriarchal mindset, sex selective abortion technology, and socio-cultural issues. Now let's get to migration. The population dynamics are fertility, birth rate, death rate, and migration. The Marx, Malthus, and DDT explains only these two. Migration is explained by JSML. So the definition of migration is relatively permanent change in residence of the population. So it is prone to subjective interpretation. So if you are a migrant, if you call yourself so and the government recognizes it. So the tourism, circulation, commuting, and transhumans, these are not migration. Bakarwala in Jammu and Kashmir, Gaddis in UK and HP, they follow the transhumans. The loss of migration, Ravenston's law, migration happens in short distances. It happens in stages. It's mostly economic in nature. Urban areas and centers of employment attract the migrants. In the destination areas, there is a housing challenge and counter migration for the ongoing migration. And young males migrate more, and rural people migrate more. With change in technology and development, migration also changes. Example, ICT. So this is the migration happening in stages. Zipf law is distance decay law. Intensity of migration inversely proportional distance. So this is in line with the Ravenston's law. And least push pull law. These are the push factors. These are the pull factors. There are two other factors: political and legal factors, psychological and personal factors. Political factors are like laws, visa permits, and psychological factors are like marriage, cultural, parents' responsibility, etc. Stuffer's law, it is law of intervening obstacles and opportunities. If there is intervening opportunity in between, intensity of migration will decrease. So this is similar to Ravenstein of short distances. And Sachstar's model, it is based on the psychological choice. Our migration is based on the expectations and perception of the destination. It is similar to pull factor of the Lee. And Zelensky's mobility transition theory, he says that mobility is directly proportional to stage of the economic development. He gave four stages: primitive rural, transition stage, pre-industrial stage, urban industrialization. Here agriculture development is very low. Here agriculture development is high, industrial development starts, and there is economic centralization. Here very high economic development. Here all round development is there. Urbanization, this is a rural settlement. Here urban settlement just begins. This experience rapid urbanization. Here quality transport is seen. Inequality, since this is a tribal society, inequality is very low. Here inequality increases. Here inequality is very high, especially rural urban divide is very high. Here inequality decreases and quality of life increases. Migration, here almost no migration. Here rural to urban migration starts. Here rural to urban migration is very high. Also urban to urban will start in later stages. Here migration will not be there, but circulation will be there due to better transport. Now coming to historical perspective of migration, initially there is out of Africa hypothesis and out of China hypothesis. This is how humans evolved. But this was very slow cultural and population diffusion. With age of voyages, the speed increase, the speed of cultural and population diffusion increased very highly. The Spain and Portuguese, they went to the New World, which are North and South America, US, Mexico, Caribbean. The result is that native population was wiped, and mixed races like mestizo, mulatto, and Zam were developed. And later, the slave triangle in 16th to 19th century. This is it. And in 1800s, the slave trade was banned, and Gilbert Act led to indentured labor who had rights and minimum wages, etc. This led to the result is that this led to spread of Indian and Chinese diaspora, like seen here. In 20th century, European migration, World War One, Ottoman collapse, and Balkan Wars resulted in Turkish people moving to Europe, and ethnic populations of Austria, Serbia, and Romania moving in Europe. And anti-Semitic and Zionist movement led to Jews moving away from Russia, Poland, and Germany to America and Israel. These may be legal, illegal, or due to Holocaust. In World War II, Jews moved to Israel, and French moved due to German advance. In mid 20th century, 1947 Indian partition, almost 10 million moved. In 60s and 70s, India's skilled people moved to US and UK. Unskilled people moved to Middle East due to oil boom to work as labor. And 90s and later, Berlin Wall collapse and USSR collapse led to people moving from Eastern Europe to Western Europe. And Gulf War in 90s, Kuwait invention, Iraq War, and Kurd migration led to many refugees. Al Qaeda, rise of Al Qaeda, Taliban, and Syrian war also led to many refugees. Some other refugees are Afghans, Uzbeks, Tajikistans, Yazidi in Syria, and Hazara from Afghan to Iran. In 90s globalization, Indian migrants moved to US and UK for software development. And recently, due to Yemen crisis, there are Houthi rebels. African crisis, Rwanda, Nigeria, Angola, Sudan, Myanmar, there are Karen, Chin, and Rohingya refugees. Now, what are the causes of migration? There are economic causes like poverty, better jobs, political causes like conflict and war, economic environment conflict reasons like flood, sea level rise, policies and laws like increased settlement in backward region. This can be seen China to Xinjiang, Pakistan to POK, and Israel to West Bank, and Canada to Arctic. Now, consequences of the migration, there are positive and negative, both for source and destination. Source will have positives like remittances, resource stress will reduce, employment will reduce. Destination will have positives like labor force will be younger, cultural diversity will increase, and better economic prospects. Negatives are like brain drain, feminization of agriculture, example in Kerala, psychological stress due to separation will increase. The negatives for destination will be crowding, conflicts, job loss, pollution, crime, dilution of culture, stress on resources, racism, xenophobia, etc. Now, reality of migration. It is a part of human reality and civilization. This is how civilization advances, and it is a consequence of inequality between rich and poor regions of the world, and it is a consequence of aspiration of a middle class mostly, and it is a survival for many. For example, few may be escaping the conflicts like this, and it is linked to human rights. So we need better governance with respect to migration. Now, coming to World Migration Report, 270 international migrants are there. Three-fourths of them are in working age. The main sources are Mexico, India, and China. Main destinations are US, Middle East. The remittance economy is very huge in Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. In India, it is huge in Bihar, UP, Karnataka, AP, Punjab, and Kashmir. 25 million people are refugees due to government identifies them. These are migrants escaping distress. The sources are Syria, Afghanistan. They go to Turkey, Germany, and Pakistan. Somalia and Congo. They go to Uganda and Sudan. From Colombia, they go to other South American countries. Now, there are a few people called people of concern who are prostitutes, child labor, bonded labor, human trafficking. Mostly, they are women, children, and young girls. And now, internally displaced persons, they do not cross the international boundaries. Rest everything will be same to the refugees. They may be escaping in conflict, environmental disaster, or a development project like a dam. Now, the way forward suggested by this report is need to destigmatize migration, stop the forced migration, solve the problem locally, improve dignity of life of the migrants, plan for the future migrants, especially those countries bordering the conflict areas, and refugees and IDP. They need internal displaced persons. They need to government offices need to be sensitized. Their health infrastructure would be better. At least provide them basic facilities. Now, coming to Indian migration, initially man did not evolve in India. They came from Africa. Over a hypothesis, in ancient times, Huns, Sakas, Greeks, Kushans, Scythians came. In medieval times, Turks, Afghans, Persians came. In 1880s, Parsis from Iran came. They are the first refugees. In 1947, partition happened. 10 million people moved. 1960s, Tibetan refugees came. 1980s, Tamils and Chakmas came. 1990s, Afghans came. Recently, Rohingyas are coming. So we can see this is Africa. This is the ancient. This is medieval. Next we have Parsi. Next we have partition. Next we have Tibetans. Next we have Tamils and Chakmas. Next we have Rohingyas. Now, out migration during the Girmit Act, India went to here and diaspora spread. And next in 47 we have the partition, and later unskilled to Middle East and skilled to UK and US. Now, seeing the India wise, Punjab, these areas go to Canada. UP, Bihar, they go to Middle East. Kerala people, they go to Middle East. AP, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, they go to USA. Now, coming to internal migration, there are two types: interstate and intrastate. The reason is employment, education, and conflict. The top reasons here are employment and marriage. Who moves? Mostly from rural to urban, males move. Rural to rural, males. These are people who move most. The sources are UP, Bihar, Jammu Kashmir, Kerala, Odisha, and Jharkhand. Here, the most important reason is rural to rural and marriage, and rural to urban due to employment. Destination is mostly adjoining states. So the reasons according to census 2011 are marriage and move with households and move after birth. These make up the 75% of the reasons. And internal migration in India is mainly due to development inequalities. So this should be addressed using regional development and planning. So also there is agriculture based out migration. This is to due to distress and droughts. We can see here UP and Bihar people and adjoining Rajasthan people moving to Haryana and Rajasthan. Rayalaseema, Telangana, Karnataka dry regions moving to AP and Telangana green revolution regions. Also, distressed farmers will move to the urban areas. Now, this is interstate migration. People move to Delhi, people move to Gujarat. These are the industrial locations. People move to Mumbai. Some people move to Hyderabad from Rayalaseema. People from this line going here who move along the industrial locations here. So, now let's move to culture, races, and ethnicity. The definition of culture is it is ways of life or generative way as explained in French. The elements of cultural belief and value system, language, religion, culture, food, clothing, etc. The importance of culture in geography, man and environment, the interrelationship. The culture is the intermediary. So culture forms the basis how we perceive the environment. So culture sets the norms. It is an element of manifestation on landscape. So some geographers who gave importance to culture, Ratzel in his book Anthropogeography, Vidal in his cultural shaping environment concept, Carl Sayer in his culture as a part of morphology of landscape, and a geosophy concept which is culture centric study in geography. Also the concept of ethnicity, which is a group of community uh, which has shared values and shares ancestry. It has three elements: culture commonality, racial commonality, and territorial identity. The concept of race, it is a part of ethnicity as we can see here, and it is related to a location of place. So race has a very specific geographic distribution, and so race is a scheme of classification of human population based on biological and physical attributes like skin color, height, nasal index, cephalic index, weight, etc. So race versus racism. Race is a valid concept. It is scientific study of human diversity, whereas racism is irrational sense of superiority based on the race. So this is a native concept. Now, how did human species originate and spread? Initially, at 3 to 4 million years old, hominids were there. Examples are Australopithecus, Ramapithecus, some great apes like bonobo and gorilla. Later, at 2 million years, were hominids like Homo habilis. These were similar to humans. Homo ergaster, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthals, and Homo sapiens sapiens, who is the modern man who came 10,000 years ago. So Neolithic revolution happened at 10,000 years ago. First settled human life and advent of agriculture. So we have the out of Africa hypothesis and out of China hypothesis. So why out of China hypothesis is important? This explains the parallel evolution of mongoloid species, explains Arctic and Russian human stock like Buryats, Sakas, and Chukis. Norway has Lapps, Canada and Alaska have Eskimos, South America has Incas and Aztecs, North America has Red Indians. It explains all. But we must note that all these theories are is not still convincingly known. But there is a broad consensus that the racial diversity is due to environmental factors. Now, the first civilizations are we have already seen this earlier. The hydrologic theory explains the relative dry regions, good rivers, soil and rain, warm and tropical subtropics, and good agriculture will lead to the civilization. The very first civilization is its Sumerian civilization south of Baghdad, ancient city of Ur is there. So the three racial types of the world are Negrido, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid. Negrito is part of a variant of Negroid. The skin color is dark, fair, and yellow. Hair, they are woolly. They both have straight hair. Height, they are these two are tall. This is not tall. Negrito are very short. Build, they are muscular. They are well built and they are medium built. They are slight built. The other features, they have prominent jawline. These are a variant of Negroid, and they have epicantic fold due to which they have small eyes. Examples are Pygmy and Andamanis, Caucasoid and Mediterranean, Celtics and Nordics. These are East Asia and Arctic tribes. Now coming to racial diversity in India, man did not evolve in India, as we know. So out of Asia and out of China hypothesis can be applied. So racial diversity developed in India due to in-migration and intermingling and relative isolation of the Indian subcontinent. Unique South Asian and Indian race developed. So 70,000 years ago, Negrito stock came. Jaravis, Onge, Sentinelese, and Amin. These are similar to the Pacific Island tribes. Later, Dravidian stock came. They make up the bulk of population of South India. Later, Aryan stock came. They are of Indian, European, and Central Asian origin. They are variants of Caucasoids. So, the racial types are Negrito, Proto-Australoid, Mediterranean, Caucasoid. These are two types again, Nordics, Dimarics. Mongoloids are two types again, Sino-Tibetan, Paleomongoloid. Negrito have dark skin, woolly hair, short. They are slightly built. Examples are Andamanes, Jaravis, Unge, and Sentinelese. They are very primitive. Proto-Australoid are dark skin, straight hair, relatively taller, muscular. They make up most of the central Indian tribes. Examples are Santals, Gonds, Konds, and Munda. They are a variant of Negrito tribe. Mediterraneans, they have deep brown skin. They are tall. They have sharp features. They make up the bulk of the Dravidian population, sizable portion of North Indian population. They were the earliest bearers of Hinduism. They came from Mediterranean region and present the Palestine. So these two guys, they built the IBC together. And Caucasoid, they have fair. We have seen all these already, and they brought all Aryan languages, and they are of Central Asian origin. Nordics, they have blue eyes. They are in Kashmir and Punjab. And Demanics, they have round face. They have bald head. These are Parsis and Gujarati population. Mongoloids, they are two types: Sino-Tibetan and Paleo-Mongoloid. These they are the Sino-Tibetan are the typical Mongoloid. Paleo-Mongoloids have brown skin and they have round face, and they are seen in the parts of Assam and Bengal. These are seen in the Himalayan regions. We can see here Sino-Tibetans are here, Paleo-Mongoloids are here. We have Negrito here, Mediterranean here, Proto-Australoid here, Mediterranean here, Caucasoid here, some Negritos here and here. Okay. Now let's get to linguistic diversity. We are going to the languages of the world. First one is the Indo-European group. This is the largest group of all. So we have they have all originated in the Central Asia, Caucasus region. We have the Indo-European subgroup, which led to Sanskrit and South Asian languages. We have the Persian. We have the Hellenic, which gave to Greek, and Italic, which gave Italic, French, Portuguese, Spain. Celtic, which gave Irish and Welsh. Germanic, which gave German, English, Gothic, Balto Slavic, which gave Russian, Serbian, Baltic languages. Also note that Dravidian group is not related to any other language of the world. Examples are Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu, Kannada. And the second group is Afro-Asiatic group. They have some influence of the Arabic. The subgroups are Swahili, Bantu, Armenic, and Khoisan. Semitic, Hamitic group. Semitic is related to Jews, and Hamitic is related to Arabic, which is in West Asia and North Africa. Sino-Tibetan group, which is in China, Japan, Korea, and Thailand. Austric group, they are some of the earliest languages. They do not have any script. These are used by primitive tribes like Munda, Kashi, and Santali. Also note that Old Chiki is the script Santali acquired recently. Brauhi is a tribe in Pakistan which speaks a Dravidian origin language. Languages of India, we have Aryan group, Dravidian group, Austric group, and Sino-Tibetan group. Two types, Dardic and Indo-European. You can see the languages here. North Dravidian, Telugu is here. South Dravidian, the rest of the four is there. Munda Kol group, we have Santali, Munda, Birhor. Khamar group, we have Kashi and Nikobari. Sino-Tibetan, we have Chinese and Tibetan origin, and languages from Northeast origin. So these are the 12 linguistic regions of the India. We can go for Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Gujarati, Marathi, Punjabi, Kashmiri. This is the Hindi region. We have Bengali, Oriya, Assamese, and one more. These are other languages. So these are the 12 linguistic regions. Now coming to the cultural regions. Region is any unit on its surface. So study of region, we can appreciate the diversity on its surface. Therefore, it is an important theme in geography because we can compare two regions. We can know what makes region union and what are how the features of the region have developed. Some of the early geographers who included cultural regions are who studied cultural elements are Ratzel, Wittesley, Carl Sauer, and Vidal. We have seen this already. In the recent Instead, he gave the concept of total region, which combines the physical elements and cultural elements, and this is similar to Compage of Whittlesey and landscape morphology of Kalsauer. And in recent times, there have been efforts to differentiate it solely on basis of culture. This is the cultural regions, which is given by Kalsauer, Krober, B, and Morel based on religion. Blitz and Muller gave very detailed regionalization. Broek based on religion, language, technology, and development. We are seeing the Broek's cultural regions. He gave 6 of them, which are Occidental, East Asian, Indic, Islamic, Meso-African, Southeast Asian. This is a part of the Occidental itself. You can see Occidental covers the Christian and developed West. Islamic covers Middle East, Pakistan, and North Africa. Indic covers South Asia. East Asia covers these things. Southeast Asia covers Southeast Asia. Also, Bhutan is not in South Asia. Meso-African covers Africa except Sahara and North Africa. This is not comprehensive because of 4 reasons. Latin America is not included. Russian Slav region is not included. Central Asia is not an extension of Middle East, they are separate. Local tribal cultures are excluded. Now coming to moral, he gave 5 cultural regions based on religion, which are Western Christian, Islamic, Indic Hindu, Eastern Buddhist, and Afro tribal. Now coming to cultural regions of India, there is very high diversity in India in terms of languages, races, culture, ethnicity, and religion. But despite all this, the most convenient thing is to do the linguistic regionalization, because a Muslim from Kerala has very less in common with a Muslim in Gujarat. But a Kerala Muslim and Kerala Hindu will have very high common features. So you can just substitute the 12 linguistic regions for cultural regions of India. Also, the Ministry of Culture gives 7 cultural zones, which are North, West, North Central, Eastern, Northeast, South Central, and Southern. And there are cultural centers for them. You can look them up. Now, coming to tribes of India, first of all, defining tribes is not easy, but they can be defined as group of people who maintain close contact and who have a descent from common ancestor. The constitutional provisions are 342, 366, and Schedule 5 and 6. The traits of tribal, they have primitive tribes, so they have common territory, common lineage, common cultural similarity, and distinct language. They are geographically isolated. They have shyness of contact with mainstream population. They are economically backward. They perform totem worship. And PVTGs, they are particularly vulnerable, so they are more vulnerable than tribes. There are 75 PVTG in India. They are on verge of extinction. They have low literacy. Their population is stagnating. They have subsistence level economy, and they follow primitive agriculture. So the tribes can be of 3 types: ST, PVTG, and denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes. Initially, during British times, they were criminal tribes. Later, after independence, they were denotified. Still, they have social stigma of being criminals. This is seen in the Kaki movie. And the major tribes of India are, we have Jammu and Kashmir, and Himachal we have Bakarwal, Gujar, and Bhotia. Here we have Bhil, Meena, and Gujar. In south we have Toda, Irula, Uravali, and Palayan. Irula is seen in JB movie. And in islands we have Jaravis, Onge, Shompen, Sentinelis, Andamanis, and Nicobaris. In central India we have Bil, Gond, Santal, Munda, Saharia. In northeast we have the Flamiri, Abor, Mishmi, Kashmir, Jaintia, Garo, and Naga tribes. Now, statewide distribution, if we put together MP, Maharashtra, and Odisha, it will make up of 1/3 of tribal population. Add in Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Jharkhand, we have 70% of tribal population in these 6 states. Northeast states have very high proportion of tribal population compared to the total population. Now, demographic attributes, their growth rate is 23.7% compared to 17.6. Sex ratio is very high compared to India. Literacy is low compared to India. Now, the tribal problems. First, look at the background. British followed the isolationist policy, which can be seen from the 1833 Act, Regulation 13, which created non-regulation provisions for, and this created special laws and special justice system. Later, after independence, we had a debate about which approach to follow: isolation approach, assimilation approach, and integration approach. This was followed by Britishers, and assimilationist approach is just reform the tribes and bring them into mainstream population. Both of them are extreme. Therefore, we follow the integration approach, which is a middle part between maintaining their cultural. Maintaining their culture and improving their development. So Nehru gave this tribal Panchashil, which has the features like non-imposition of alien values and tribal rights, training tribals in administration, no over administration in tribal areas, and do not judge the policy based on money spent but based on outcomes. So, geography versus tribal backwardness. There's a connectivity issue like terrain and dense forest, lack of education, only 59% literacy, and the resource curse. According to Center for Science and Environment, 50% of the top mineral producing districts are in tribal areas. This will lead to problems like deforestation, informal sector employment, therefore no social security, and displacement of the tribes. Displacement of the tribes. 40% of the population displaced are tribes, and this will lead to problems because no adequate compensation is provided, cultural shocks due to moving to new areas, social deprivation, new diseases because they may not be vaccinated, and inferiority complex. To solve all this, Kaka committee was constituted, and their recommendations with respect to health are maintain a health assembly which where locals gather and raise awareness, provide better health infrastructure, and focus on 3 A's, which are Anganwadi, Asha worker, and auxiliary nurse midwife, uh, to improve the IMR and MMR and substance abuse. Also, the main basic approach is to focus on social parameters of the health, which are health, nutrition, literacy, sanitation, cooking fuel. And coming to education, the need for education is to understand their rights, get better employment, and improve their standard of life. And issues are dropout ratio is high because the cultural connector is very low. Parents give very low importance to education, early marriage, livelihood issues, so they go for child labor. Very poor infrastructure, like school infra is very bad and teachers are very low, and the language barriers because they have very distinct languages. So the recommendations are to give importance to tribal culture and the education, for example indigenous knowledge, strict implementation of RTA Act, and residential schools might be better because tribes may be nomadic, and demilitarization in the Naxal areas, performing social audits. Coming to economic reforms, 90% of the tribals depend on agriculture and other activities like MFU collection, hunting, gathering, boat keeping, etc. So they recommended TriFed to promote these activities, micro watersheds to improve agriculture, and skill development by creating a new national institute for tribal development. Coming to legal and constitutional reforms, land deletion is the biggest issue for them, because of which they're displaced and forcibly migrated. So tribals very existence depends on the land, which is violated by Indian Forest Act 1865, which is brought by the British. Alienation still continuing under still after independence. Example, WPA Act 1972. So the recommendations are unutilized land with governments and PSUs should be returned to original owner or be used for displaced tribes. Consent of Gram Sabha before land acquisition, and empower Gram Sabha to identify, investigate, and then restore land to the tribal. Now let's get to population problems. Let's see the types of population problems. Because of population composition, we have sex ratio issues, aging population, workforce, conflicts, racial, ethnic, communal conflicts, and migrants, xenophobia, racism. Due to population size, we have poverty and inequality, crowding, governance issues, population resource imbalance. We can link the Ackerman concept here, population resource ratio. So all these problems are interlinked and they cannot be separate, therefore solutions must be comprehensive. Now coming to problems of the developing countries, they have poverty and inequality, patriarchy, gender issues, and human trafficking, and low skill and economic development. Health issues like IMR, MMR, nutrition, life expectancy is low, communicable diseases. The population problems of developed world are aging population, workforce is shrinking population size, migration, conflict, due to racism and xenophobia. Coming to the poverty and inequality, so this is the poverty map of the world. The blue areas are the poor regions, and red regions are extremely poor. We can Sub-Sahara, Venezuela, Suriname, Colombia, etc., Haiti, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. And in the sub-Saharan region, we have poverty and hunger, conflict and governance issues. We have droughts and desertification, multidimensional poverty. It includes poverty based on income plus access to food and other aspects like housing, health, sanitation, drinking water, etc. Poverty based on income is $1.1 per day. There are 800 million such in world. Multidimensional poverty, there are 1.3 billion in the world. In India, one third of them are below poverty line, half are multidimensionally poor. One third of the multidimensionally poor in the world are in Africa. Coming to distribution of Indian poverty, we have five main pockets, which are Eastern India, border regions, tribal regions, plateau interiors, and island regions. Eastern India consists Eastern Europe, Eastern UP, Bihar, West Bengal, and Assam. They have issues like agri-based poverty, floods and droughts, and poor colonial land management. And tribal regions, there are many pockets, but the biggest pocket is in central India. They have issues like forest rights, Naxalism, and tribal exploitation. Island regions, Andaman Nicobar have very primitive tribes and agricultural issues. Lakshadweep has very low standard of life and hence unemployment. Standard of life is good, but unemployment is high. Peninsular interiors, regions like Maharashtra, Telangana, Rayalaseema, Karnataka, Raichur belt, they have droughts, agriculture distress, and rain shadow region of the Western Ghats. Border areas have low accessibility, infra is poor, insurgency is high, smuggling and drugs, human trafficking, tension with the neighbor areas like China. Also, urban poverty. Urban slums have many poor and hungry people. Also, out migration from these regions is going to urban. They will be obviously urban poor. And linking population theories and population problems. Malthus said limited food production and high population growth will lead to population collapse. Therefore, positive checks are inevitable. Poor themselves to be blamed for poverty. He said no to poor laws, instead go for capitalistic protection. Marx, he said poverty is due to twin evils, class divide, poverty. Therefore, his solutions are communism and communal ownership of resources. Therefore, he follows a structuralist approach. DTT, he says a birth rate, death rate, and DT stage dictates the type of population problems. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 4. Stage 1 has multiple steps. It is only present in primitive types. Early expanding and late expanding, they have high birth rates and low death rates. Therefore, congestion, crowding, skewed sex ratio, poverty inequality. This seen in developing and agricultural countries. Population stabilization stage has aging population, shrinking population, workforce is falling, migrant conflicts are increasing. Therefore, types of population problem depends upon the stage of DTT. Now, coming to the developmental approach or followed by social theories, Malthus and DTT, they talk about population size itself being the problem. This approach is to develop the population, and the population numbers will take care of itself. The best solution is to follow both, control the numbers, use the optimum population concept here, and also follow the development initiatives. So the population development neoclassical approach is basically trickle down. You improve the economic growth and it will result in population and social development. Welfare approach is given by 70s David Morris. He talked about physical quality of life, measure development using social indicators like IMR, life expectancy, literacy, etc. New development approach is given by UNDP in 90s. Human development concept developed by Amartya Sen and Mahbubul Haq. They spoke of human development as expansion of choices. These choices may be productive choices, health choices, education, occupational, residential choices. Therefore, human development is much broader than population development. It also includes building capacity and empowering both individuals and societies, thereby improving the quality of life. Now, coming to HDI, it is given by UNDP in Human Development Report. It is a geometric mean of income index, health index, and education index, which is GNI per capita in purchasing power parity in American dollars, and life expectancy at birth, mean years, total years of schooling, and expected years of schooling. So, human development is very broad concept, but HDI captures a very narrow sense. Some of the limitations are environment degradation is captured by green GDP. These are the alternatives to HDI. Social well-being is captured by GNH. Inequalities are captured by inequality adjusted HDI and global poverty index. Gender issues are captured by gender inequality index and gender development index. Sustainability is captured by genuine progress index. US and Canada follows this. So this is a contemporary understanding of human development is to do all this. So human development pattern follows almost the brand line. Some exceptions are this Kuwait and all these countries which have high HDI due to but low, very poor social parameters. High is very poor in Western Hemisphere. Afghanistan is very poor. So these are the high, medium, and low. India comes in the median category. India has the HDI score of 0.645 and inequality adjusted HDI of 0.47. Therefore, inequality is high in India, and HDI has increased by 50% since LPG reforms, but development is not uniform. This leads to regional inequalities. Rank is 131 by 189. And social well-being, there are three domains: domain of being, domain of belonging, and domain of becoming. So these are the work, life, and existence. And domain of being is existing physical and mental state, so physical and mental health, occupation, place of work and living. Domain of belonging is how you belong to a group and shared sense of work and life. So this is a relation component. This is a hope component about the future aspirations. So social well-being is a function of your present state, your future aspirations, and your sense of participation in the community. Coming to gross national happiness, due to industrialization, urbanization, individualism increased, therefore loneliness, stress, depression increased, therefore happiness decreased. So gross national well-being is a concept given by 2005 European Union Commission of Man Health Commission. It is a secular and non-religious concept. It is taken by Bhutan and they converted into a semi-religious concept and linked it to Buddhism concepts. So they made GNH their objective of the national development. So it is based on four pillars: sustainable development and equitable sharing of resources, environment conservation, preservation, promotion of culture. This makes it the semi-religious concept, and good governance. Coming to social capital, again the backdrop is industrialization, urbanization leading to more individualism. Therefore, traditional community life and relations, they are diluted. Therefore, Black and Coleman, they suggested four types of capital, which are natural capital, human capital, producer capital, and social capital. These are given by nature. These are skills acquired by the humans. These are physical goods like machinery, etc. And this is the domain of belonging we have seen here. Now coming to the modern concept of social capital is developed by Pierre Bourdieu, and he is a French sociologist who studied the conflicts and racism in French society. Later, this is popularized by Robert Putnam. World Bank, in its Making Democracies Work, acknowledged his work, and democracies do not come natural, they must be fostered. Therefore, social capital is a must for democracies to work. So some of the advantages of social capital are they help us to collaborate, therefore conflict will reduce, they make us more efficient, efficient communication will be done, mutual trust will be developed between, they will reduce the transaction cost, because if there is trust, unnecessary litigations will be reduced. Coming to social capital, population development, earlier it was third, population control, literacy, health, etc. Now this has been widened to include sense of security, belonging, participation, happiness, mental health, etc. So this is the aspect of well-being. So this is very important theme in development and welfare geography. There are three components of social well-being, which are bonding, bridging, and linking. Bonding is between people who identify with each other on common aspect. This is very easiest of all. Example, caste, religion, language. Linguistic reorganization of states is done on this, so this is the easiest. And bridging is done between groups of people who are dissimilar, therefore this is the most challenging. So to do this, we have to overcome prejudices and stereotypes. So this is the bonding, this is bonding, and these two groups need to be bridged. So some of the examples are Panchashil, diplomacy, track to diplomacy and sports diplomacy, arbitration, religious leaders in controlling rights, reconciliation efforts. Linking is between people who are at different hierarchical levels, example manager and workers. This is also difficult but not as difficult as this. Examples are trade unions versus management, RTA versus government, ombudsman versus bank, PRI and ULB versus central state governments, social hearing versus environmental impact assessment. And this is important for effective democratic accountable responsible governance, both in public sector and corporate sector. Most of the conflicts happen because bonding is high, because this is easiest. Bridging and linking are because they are difficult. So this will result in caste identity, racism, regionalism, cultural nationalism, patriarchy, etc. So we can use social capital concept in planning and development, like dealing with regionalism, conflict resolution, rural development, using local leaders as agents of social change, decentralization, example cooperative federalism with states and local governance bodies. And at national level, we can use it for multi-level planning, watershed development, disaster management, local area planning. At a global level, we can use for track to diplomacy, PAO cards, dual citizenship, government lobbying, and summits. These are some of the other indices other than HDI, which are development index, which calculates male and female HDA. This is inequality adjusted HDA. We calculate all this and adjust inequality and we get the high HDA. India has value of 0.47. And gender inequality index, we calculate all this. So these are is calculates the potential loss in human development due to disparity between male female. Green GDP, we subtract cost of environmental degradation from GDP. India wanted to do this since 2009 but still not instituted. GNH followed by Bhutan, we have seen this already. Human poverty index given by UN again. It is deprivation in the same thing for HDI. So these are the factors they consider. And genuine progress indicator, this is used by US and Canada. They measure the income inequality, cost of crime, and all this. So we are done with the revision. From Monday we are starting settlement geography, so people who want to join can join our group